Welcome to another Road to Hollywood. We're very excited to kick off the new year in grand style. It's going to be the most amazing year. We've got a lot of great stuff for you planned. Please check out the show, the past episodes, and what's coming up. There's so much knowledge, so much information on big events coming up. And without further ado, we'd love to kick off the new year with a very special guest. He is S.Alston. He's a management executive with Discmakers. And our pleasure to join him in the studio. How you doing, Sidney?
Pretty fantastic.
It's great to kick off the new year with a special show here. I know we're going to be talking a lot about, putting together your ultimate team, basically how to network, how to really maximize the moves. Because, again, there's really no rule book. And especially now, these days, everybody's pretty much independent. So it is what you make it. And that's what's really exciting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in music, and what led up to, your professional career here?
Well, I started playing in the band in high school, playing trumpet, and got good at it. Ended up doing a really short tour with Maynard Ferguson, who was my trumpet hero. But I kind of wanted to do more. I wanted to dance and sing, so I taught myself to play the bass. Went on the road, got good at it, put together a band, got a record deal, my first record deal back in, I guess, a while ago with Virgin Records. Kept moving, found out a lot about record labels when I got signed. A few years later, got another deal, been playing music and just doing it all my life. At some point or another, I guess I've realized that I was booking tours around the world. I was, feeding a whole crew of people, light people, sound people, the band, everybody. And I realized I was good at it. So I wanted to be more on the business side. I went to Discmakers, told them who I was. They gave me a job. Started out at the bottom, worked my way up. So now I'm here in LA, managing artists, networking, hanging out with Jay.
Well, that's great. You've got such a interesting perspective because having come full circle, everybody's independent right now. But back in the day when you were growing up, I'm sure getting a major label deal was the panacea, the holy grail, the ultimate of goals. And tell us a little bit about that experience, and what was an eye opener as far as what was the myth about when you finally got in there and had a record deal? What was it that you didn't expect?
There were a lot of people who had deals, and a lot of people who never saw the light of day, and it really was the end of my situation because of the record deal. I had to start all over when that was all over and build up from the beginning. I mean, the key to any artist, whether you're signed or unsigned, is about fans. You have to have fans. Fans is the key.
And the record company isn't necessarily going to automatically give you those fans. You got to go out and earn them. And I'm sure back then, Virgin Records, it was very much about putting the song out to radio. And if radio didn't take it all the way, all the other pieces didn't fall into place. Did you feel kind of defenseless in that you were just sitting there waiting for the label to do something, for the doors to open?
Well, we were waiting for it to happen, and our A&R exec got fired, and so they dropped the band. And it was also one of those situations where we had music, we had recordings, we were already selling them, we were already playing shows that were packed. So in a way, we didn't really need a record label per se. But of course, when you get the opportunity to sign a deal, you get an advance check, go out and buy your car, it's fun and it's exciting, but nothing happened.
Now, when did you realize what the cost of that check was? How many, did you ever calculate how many units you'd have to actually pay back to get back to zero?
Yeah, I think back then we would have gotten about 6 cents per record that we sold. We would have had, it was the beginning of the 360 deal, so we lost a lot of our performance rights. And so, yeah, we would have had to sell at least 1 million records or close to that to make money. Not to recoup, but to make it.
I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, you can go get a loan and go pay off that car, but now you'd have to sell 1 million units to pay for the damn advance. Now, tell us how that segued into the second deal, how all that came about.
Well, the second deal, we were out, I built another band, we went out and played. We signed an independent record deal with a little label called Society Hill Records. And basically, we were waiting around for those guys to make a move as well, but they were distributed through BMG RCA. And those guys, from BMG RCA picked us up as a distribution label. And again, nothing happened.
So I guess the real, downside of that is you've lost control. Now somebody owns your music, they own the rights, and you're kind of the pawn in the game, whether they make the move or put you on a shelf or just sit back and do nothing. I mean, you're pretty much defenseless. And I'm sure you've seen now that, whether you have to go independent because the lack of deals or just there's the more opportunities that you really want to be in control of your own destiny as much as possible.
It's all about the fans. So, at the end of the day, if you do get a record deal and it works out and you get a song on the radio and people like it and you build a bigger fan base, even when that record deal's over, you're back to doing what you were doing before, but you got more fans.
Yeah.
Building a fan base and maintaining it along the way is still always the most important thing. I mean, Justin Bieber wouldn't be a mega millionaire if he didn't have millions of little girls buying his records. So that's the key. I mean, if you can go out, and besides, to sell 100,000 records on your own, before we got our first record deal, Jay, we sold over 10,000 copies of our record at $10 a pop. So we made some money. I mean, none of us had day jobs. We all played music during the day. If we weren't rehearsing, we were doing studio sessions. We were out booking other bands and getting commissions, for them to open for us. So we were hustling.
Well, that's great to hear. We're going to come back after this next clip, and we're going to talk more. Again, our special in-studio guest is S.Alston. He is a management executive with Discmakers, the biggest manufacturer in the music business. And we're going to have some special words right now with Kevin Lyman. Kevin is the creator of the Warped Tour, the longest-running tour in America today. He's also the co-founder of the Mayhem Festival and the Country Throwdown. So he's got 3 tours crisscrossing America all summer long, doing major business, while a lot of these big corporations are scratching their head. So this is an indie icon. He's going to be speaking at IES this year. We're very proud to now give you some words of wisdom with Kevin Lyman, CEO of the Warped Tour. Speak on advice you give to the musical bands, the artists coming up today, what they need to focus on, how they need to stand out of the crowd and build their own audience.
Well, sometimes I think I'd like to think that it used to be like everyone wanted to get in a van and drive across the country and go on tour. My recommendation is become the biggest band in your county. It's going back to being the largest band in your area. Learn your business, broaden out, find other like-minded artists. Trade shows with them. If you're in Los Angeles and you can find a band in San Bernardino that you could open for on a Friday, drive out there and open for them, and then let them come open for you. Sharing crowds, sharing audiences, being patient. I think that's a thing that's back a catchword, and not even a catchword. It's an important statement that it is going to take time and be patient to build your careers once again.
And for those bands that want to do that DIY tour on their own, what should they be really looking forward to? Set that up and accomplish.
Try to get some legitimate shows with people on. Build that network with some bands out there that'll put you on their shows. So you're working with legitimate promoters. I don't know how often, bands are out there and their shows are canceled. They don't get paid. They don't do this. They get stuck. They're calling mom for a wire to get gas money home. Network and learn, and maybe go to some of these small, IES Festival. There's the Driven Conference. Maybe not necessarily South by Southwest, but South by Southwest is a great time, but really it's just spring break. It's a party. it's not the place to be discovered anymore. There's a lot of little independent festivals popping up all over the country. I've started going to those. Those are the ones I like to go to, and may pass over some of the larger ones to go to some of the smaller events.
Great. And what do you see as far as the future of the independent entertainment? I mean, what can some of these creative people look forward to rather than sitting there waiting for a record deal, waiting for a studio to greenlight their picture?
You have tools to go out there and do it. You can put your music on TuneCore. You can get involved in Rhapsody. It's a low entry fee to get in the game these days. Now figuring out how to use all those free tools like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Tumblr and all those things. It's going to be the kid that comes in and helps that band becomes the new manager. The ones that can sit there and say, I can help move your career forward as well as my own career going forward. I think there's huge opportunities to get yourself out there. It's hard to stand out from the clutter sometimes, though. You have to figure out the way to stand out, and I still believe that's just having an amazing live show. And great songs.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, the songs are the one things that continue to go on and people want to come back and see. What should artists concentrate on as far as finding their own voice or their own style, in their songwriting?
I think that's the thing. I think there's so many great songwriters out there. It's crazy. I have an office in Nashville now, and meeting all these great songwriters, but. It's refining your craft, writing it all the time. I think it's tough on these acts a lot of times when they're told to go write a record. It's time to write a record. I think you should be writing all the time, randomly. Carry a book with you, just write your thoughts down. Thoughts flow through your head very quickly at times, and I think it's refining that craft, taking workshops, going to these conferences, spending times. There's a lot of people that are willing to get back and teach. I've always seen that these, so how to structure a song, how to do these things, workshops. Just get involved.
Great. And in closing, any last bits of encouragement for the creative artists?
Hey, we can all read the papers. We can read the downfall of the music industry. We can read about the film industry going away or the piracy and all that kind of stuff. It's just making us all accountable and making us a lot smarter in the way we do business. I think I've been lucky enough to stay streamlined for 30 years. I never have let my business become bloated or think that tomorrow's that we have it locked down. I mean, we work hard every day. I mean, yesterday I was actually sitting there I was speaking at the surf industry conference, and I was like, wouldn't it be nice maybe to sit on that boat? But I got to get going. I got to get back to work in 10 minutes, And that's what you do. You get up and work every day.
Again, some great words of wisdom from Kevin Lyman. He is the founder and creator of the Warped Tour, Mayhem Festival, Country Throwdown. Have you ever been to the Warped Tour?
I have.
It's an amazing. It's like a traveling circus. I mean, every city, they literally build a city within that fairgrounds or parking lot or wherever they are, and between the artists performing and they've set up their own merch tents and everything. It's pretty amazing education for the artists to really learn what it takes to go out there and build fans, sell your merch, really deal directly, one-on-one with the fans. What do you think of it?
Oh, I love it. I saw Skrillex before he was actually Skrillex, when he was just Sonny, playing in his band on the Warped Tour. They were touring Let Live and a whole bunch of other great rock bands who, built up their power and their fan base and their network from playing at the Warped Tour and Ozfest, and there's quite a few of those tours out there.
Well, yeah, it's exciting to, like I say, take it on the road. A lot of people, they want to go on a tour, but to try and be a headliner and actually the onus of packing that club on your own, even if you're getting a little airplay or whatever, is pretty frightening. And it's so much better sometimes to band together with other artists that are already doing it. I know everybody would love to open for the big, giant, arena headliner, but those are coveted slots. So tell us a little bit about what you've seen, some of the creative things that some of the bands or artists do to kind of, get on the road and build some of their fan bases.
Well, I think you got to be somewhat unique in your approach to trying to build a fan base. Everyone can, all the bands out there are great. So you got a lot of great bands out there, but what makes you stand out? And that's what's going to allow you to build your own fan base. There's a lot of bands out there that are either playing at clubs. You know, I did to get my second band off the ground. You know, we had found a club that was willing to book us on Thursdays, pretty much whenever we wanted, but no one came. So what we did was we found a trip to the Bahamas for $89 online. And we bought the ticket, and we had a hot legs contest. It offered the trip to the Bahamas. We went around to every strip joint in the area, gave it to all the strippers, and said, hey, you know what? You can win a trip to the Bahamas, and the way you win is to bring all your friends. It's going to be about audience participation. And then that Thursday night, the club was more packed than it had ever been, ever. It was so packed that everybody couldn't get in. And it actually launched that band. We were able to play other clubs, you know, the pictures, the videos, and, you know, they heard us and they liked it. So we were winning. The next week, it was just as packed as it was the first week. We did a set of original material with one cover song. By the time we, you know, the month was over, everybody was singing along with us.
Well, that's a great story. You know, that's really about creativity. You know, a lot of people think, well, let me just work on my songs, you know, buy my CD, buy my concert ticket, buy my T-shirt. But really what you did was create an event. And at that event, you know, the guys wanted to be where the girls were, and the girls wanted to be where the party was, and everybody is word of mouth. They're like, my God, that Thursday was incredible. Let me be there next Thursday. And that's really what it takes a lot of times, is thinking outside the box, getting creative. You know, that $89, you know, vacation package, you know, probably bought you thousands of dollars worth of publicity and, you know, fans for the future. And that's really what it's about. Let's talk a little bit about that, because again, we've got social media. That's obviously, the internet is, you know, one of the greatest tools, but also it's kind of leveled the playing field. Everybody's got music. Everybody's on iTunes. Everybody's, you know, got their page out there. What are some of the things that you're seeing some of the artists do that to really stand out of the pack and really create kind of things like that, what you did with the show, but doing that online? What are some of the things you've seen?
Well, you know, at Discmakers, we work with a ton of independent artists, and there are some who, you know, don't sell any records, and some that, you know, get six-figure checks from CD Baby. Some of the ones that I see that I really like, that I think are good bands, also do some things that, you know, maybe might be considered gimmicky, but it's part of who they are and what their culture is. You know, there's a band that I saw, they send out their newsletter, and their newsletter is a cartoon. The entire newsletter is a cartoon, and it shows, you know, it has names of people that they saw at the venues that they played at, or they include tweets and Facebook pictures and things like that, and they cartoon and make it look really cool, and it's interesting to look at. I mean, you can do an article instead of just telling people, you know, we just went in the studio and recorded a new record. You know, sometimes it's you don't have to engage them that way. It's about what are your songs are about. Maybe your songs are kind of silly, so you write I used to do a Dear Sid column. I put this big long nose on this comic book character, and I would write, you know, all our songs were about having fun and drinking and partying. So I wrote little stupid things. I met this girl at the club the other night, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't realize how powerful it was until one day I didn't put that on my mailer. And people started asking me, dude, where's the Dear Sid column, man? I read that Dear Sid column every time I get it. So, I mean, for every band, it's going to be different. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you're a metal band, and it's heavy, heavy metal. Or maybe you're like a hardcore hip-hop band, you know, and it's about the clothes. Maybe you hook up with some stores or lifestyle shops. They'll sell your CDs, and in return, you take pictures, you wear their clothes. You know, it's about working together.
Well, that's very important, again, is to, you know, stay on top of it. You know, not only learn from people that know more, done it, you know, and follow examples. You know, what we love to see is not only what works, but sometimes what doesn't work. So you either put a spin on that or know what to avoid. But, you know, there are no more rules. You know, there's not one MTV or one radio chain or one, you know, internet site. It's very much the Wild Wild West. You know, what was hot 2 years ago might be passé today, and it might be something new next month. So that's what's really exciting. Again, our guest today is S.Alston. He's with Discmakers, #1 manufacturer in the country. Their sister company, CD Baby, is a giant in the world of digital distribution. When we come back, we're going to be talking about what it takes to put together the ultimate team and really survive in this day and time. And right now we're going to go to some clips that we went backstage with E40 and Mac 10, two icons of the independent world, and they school you a little bit on what it takes to stand out and what's important today for them to really bring you their music.
Too Short, some brothers up out of Richmond, California by the name of Magic Mike and Calvin T. KRS-One. These are people I grew up on. Ice-T, African Bambaataa, of course. Did I say Too Short?
Yep.
Too Short. Who else? Can't Go From You, TFO. People wouldn't even notice. See, I pay homage to all the ones before me, man. You understand me? Y'all gotta pay homage to me, youngsters. You smell me? I already carved my name in I already, you understand me, carved my identity into the history books, whether you like me or not. But at the same time, man, no, that's who.
Well, we're celebrating the best of the West. What does Tupac have? What role does he play in the history of West Coast hip hop?
Man, right there with NWA. Right there, man.
He's a pillar.
He's a pillar. He definitely a staple in the game. And the West Coast would be much different if he was still alive. We'd be more, you know what I mean? We'd be out there, man. But, you know, rest in peace, Tupac, we love you. Greatest rapper of all time. We love you. You understand me? And we in this thing, man. You know, I know he'd be proud of those who, you know, still keeping it thorough, organic, and solid, like myself. You know what I'm saying? And a whole bunch more of us, West Coast.
There's so much talent up in the Bay, but the rest of the country, even down south here, we don't necessarily hear all these artists. What advice would you give to those Bay Area artists to really spread their wings and become national or international artists?
Once you get on, the thing with a lot of the young artists is that they got a lot of talent, but you got to stay on the case. You got to stay on it. You can't get relaxed. That's what people don't understand. You can't get relaxed in this game. You got to stay on the case like a lawyer. You got to keep your foot on their neck. You cannot stop. You got to stay aggressive. And those who haven't made it, if you keep throwing shit at the wall, just taking shit, just throwing it, just keep throwing it, eventually one day it's going to stick. But the most important thing of everything is to stay prayed up and ask God and go by what he tell you to do. You in there, stay fixed, keep your faith, man. That's it.
Way back, man, the West Coast, K-Day. What was the artist out there that really made you want to do music yourself?
Eazy-E. Easy was the coldest. He was the greatest ever. You know what I mean? He the first one to take like the business aspect of it to the next level and all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Easy was a hustler, man.
And what does NWA mean to the history of West Coast hip hop?
NWA mean everything to the history of West Coast hip hop. I mean, West Side Connection wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for NWA. You know, I always tilt my hat to him and pay homage. You know what I mean? NWA forever. That's how I go.
That's beautiful. And with such a changing business environment out there, what's your strategy these days? You know, in the music business, how are you getting it in?
just stay hustling, man. It's all about reps. You know what I mean? Reps make you better. Period. It is all just stay getting it in. You can't never rest. You can't let up off the gas.
Talk a little bit about the new era of the West Coast. Obviously, you got G Malone out there. What do you feel about some of these other rappers in the future of the West Coast?
I mean, a lot of these dudes, some of them is garbage, but I give props to a lot of them though, and a lot of them I'm riding with them. You know, I like 211, I like Joe Moses, I like Rocket, you know, I like YG Soprano, I like the Majo, I like L Boy, like, you know, I like the ones that really get in. You know what I mean? So shit, I'm all with the youngsters, man. I'm with it.
And what advice would you give to new artists coming up today to stand out and really find their own sound?
Keep mixing that shit up and keep whooping until it get rock hard for you. You know what I mean? You gotta just keep going until it come together for you. That's it.
Take some chances.
Yeah, you gotta take chances. You can't win. You ain't hustling if you ain't taking no chances. Right. So you know, that's what it's all about.
Again, great words of wisdom. That was E40 and Mac 10 live on a Special K Day event. We're excited to bring you so much behind the scenes in the music business here on the road to Hollywood. We've got a very special guest in the studio today. It is S.Alston. He is a management executive with Discmakers. Let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about putting their team together, but let's talk about that when people like think that CDs are over. It's just, you know, they just want to like push that off to the side and say that, oh, it's just digital, I'm just going to put my CD up here. What are they missing out on, and what do you see from the side that still lets people know you still got to be physical, digital, mobile? You got to really surround them, not just have one thing just because it's easy.
Well, you know, there's so many different types of music out there, so maybe the only thing that's fully digital is what you hear on the radio. So if it's not on the radio, you know, how are people really going to know it's there? CDs kick in, you know, at your shows, when you're at events to network, you're giving it to the producer, the radio station. I could go down that list. But strangely enough, this has been our biggest year. Discmakers is still growing, which is pretty exciting, actually. A lot more people are finding the need for CDs, and I'm hearing now that vinyl's also pretty popular too. You know, plus we do mastering and artwork. It takes so much to make a record, from the writing the songs, producing the tracks, everything. It's just so much that you have to have a huge team of people behind you.
Well, I think a lot of times, you know, everybody's looking, or a lot of people are looking for a shortcut. And if they can take that off the table and say, okay, I don't need CDs, I don't need to go to stores, it's kind of like they're trying to simplify it. You know, let me just upload this to, you know, to the web, and I'll be done with it. I'll just wait for those checks to roll in. And as we know, it's made it so easy to put your music online that unless you're really out there campaigning for it, and that's really what it comes down to, you're not building your fan base, you know, or, you know, if you're not giving them a real reason to get behind you, maybe they're listening, but they're getting it for free. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about putting together the ultimate team, because that's really what it comes down to, is building a campaign. You know, when we see these people that just ran for president and governor and mayor and, you know, councilman and senator and all that, we saw what it takes to get out there and really compete in the market, you know, get out there and build your constituency, you know, really give them substance. Why should they vote for you when there's 3 or 4 or 5 other people, you know, they're all campaigning for that same office? Let's talk a little bit about some of the elements it takes to make a great team these days. And more importantly, you know, there's only 100% of the pie. So you just can't start bringing on partners and carving it up and think you're going to end up with the, you know, the whole pie. So let's talk a little bit about what you see these days, some of the creative way people are putting their teams together, kind of getting their campaign rolling and getting a buzz going. What are some of the key elements to the team do you see for an artist? You know,
You really can't put together the team until you have it together yourself. And then you know, your manager. You can go out and find a manager who will actually help you team build as well. You know, there's the 3 essential things that you need are going to be a manager and a lawyer. That's going to be 1 and 2. and someone who can help you create the music. You know, whether it's somebody who finances it and sends you into the studio, or whether somebody who owns a studio who's an accomplished producer that can make it sound like a record. Because at the end of the day, there's so much music out there that you really do have to sound as good, if not better, than the record they heard before.
Well, I think that's really key. You know, we talk to so many people that are just churning out music. They're making music every day. You know, guys call and they say they're releasing a mixtape every week, and it's like, why? I mean, you know, if you haven't really started to, build that audience and have that song that people are reacting to and be able to kind of build that momentum, does the world really need another million songs? And the answer is obviously no. I mean, there's billions of songs on iTunes, and I don't know if you've heard any stats from CD Baby, but how many of the people, in other words, it's like 1% of the artists are generating 99% of the sales. Do you have any figures from CD Baby on that?
I don't have any actual figures from CD Baby, but I guess because I do the CDs, people call me up to make their reorders, so I can see who is selling and who's not. And interestingly enough, a lot of people who use CDs as promotion, they found some really clever ways to make it work. At big events that they can go to or be at, they'll slip their CDs in all the gift bags so that people walk away with their picture and their music. And it matters, because they might go look them up, see what they're doing online. If you got a video to correspond with a song, you get more hits. It's really about being clever with that. But to answer that question, I really don't know what the percentages of people who are actually selling music, but most people aren't selling any. They might order 1,000, they become coasters. Yeah. But a lot of people, if they keep the energy up, some people actually believe that when the record is done, people will come.
Yeah. They don't have a plan, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about building a team, working a plan, and, we use a lot of analogies like going into war or a sports team that's really, the underdog and they're trying to win the championship. But a lot of those analogies really work. It doesn't really matter where you start, but where you end up. So you can be the underdog, you can be off the radar, but it still doesn't mean at the end of the day you can't end up being, a winner, one of the top artists that people are buzzing about. And even these days, independently, it's not so much about the old days of gold and platinum, but are you profitable? Are you in the black or in the red? We work with a lot of artists that make a profit off selling just a few thousands of units, and exponentially with a great live show and a lot of hustle, that can turn into 10 and 20 and 50,000 units. Now all of a sudden, you're in the leagues where you're generating hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're out there touring. We use a lot of examples. Of course, we inducted Tech Nine in the IES Hall of Fame in our hip hop honors last year, and he's amazing. We're going to have Violet Brown in the next couple weeks talking about strange music and the amount of business that some of these guys do just under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't your pop artist. They're not on BET. You don't hear them on the radio. But at the end of the year, they're making millions. Where a lot of these guys you think are the pop stars aren't getting a royalty check.
Uh-uh.
And I think that's what's really key is to build your team. Now you talk about having a manager early, and I know you're the kind of manager that helps develop and nurture the artist.
Correct.
But I know a lot of people come to us and they say, how do I get a manager and all that? And a lot of times what I think is important is that they actually have something to manage, or they're a manageable artist. There's somebody that's going to work closely with you, because I know a lot of people, they're naive to the business, think the manager is the investor, the manager is the guy who's going to do all the work, he's going to get the deal, he's going to book the shows and all that. Why don't you talk about a little bit about the reality of what a manager does and what he doesn't do?
Well, and a lot of people work in teams now with management teams because managers have become more than just a manager. They do make the record sometimes. They do invest the money sometimes. But for the most part, though, managers manage what you do daily. So if you have shows, they call ahead to make sure that everything's going to be set up. What time do we need to be there? What do we need to bring? What do you have? What are we plugging into? They're the guy who calls the radio station to try and, hey, we're in town, we want to come over and, our song's doing good on the radio, whatever the case may be. That's what a manager does. He manages what the artist is actually doing. So if the artist isn't doing anything, there's really nothing to manage. And, a lot of folks are, hey, I got my record, I need a manager. But a manager for what? There's nothing going on. You got nothing happening. And you're right. I do actually like to develop my artists and create these things for them. There's not a lot of real managers out there that are willing to do that. It costs money. They're looking to make money. So, the payoff is you never know what the payoff is going to be. You never know when an artist is going to be flaky and not show up and ruin your reputation. You just don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like that also on the label side. So many people that really don't know the business, they hear the stories about somebody getting a big royalty check, or their label is booming and they're following in the coattails. But really, I think what's important for artists to understand is, what is a record deal? The first lines of a record deal is you're signing away the ownership and the rights to your music. And these days with the 360 deal, you're signing away the control of your publishing. Even though they may not take all the publishing, they have the rights to pretty much do whatever they want with it and account to you later. Of course, they also have a stake in your merchandising and your live shows, even though they don't print any t-shirts for you unless they're promotional, in which they're going to charge you back on, and they're not booking any shows, but they certainly want a piece of that endorsement or that live show or the tour. And of course, if it's all cross-collateralized, it means you got to generate a lot of sales before you're really making any money. A lot of times the artists in the past, they would pretty much give up knowing they're not going to make much money on the unit sales, but they're going to make it on the road if the label really gets behind them. But these days with that 360 deal, and you don't even have to be a giant label to ask for that 360. Even the little labels are using some of the same forms now. So again, this is the road to Hollywood. We're talking about being independent, really creating your own destiny. Our guest today is S.Alston. We're going to come back and talk about networking and being at all the events, really learning from those that are doing it. We're going to go back to a couple independent legends. We've got Twista and Dub C backstage. We're going to be coming right back on the road to Hollywood.
Go back and I'll fix it.
Okay. We're just going to tweak that video real quick. Again, we're going to come back in a couple minutes. We're going to be talking about the importance of the events, the Indie Entertainment Summit, a lot of the ASCAP Expo, there's the Taxi Road Rally and different things like that if you're a member of that organization. But what's really important these days is to learn from those that are doing it, because again, there's not one TV channel or one radio station or even one book that's going to teach you about this stuff. It's really best, especially in the indie world, to learn from these guys that are doing it. We talk about a lot of people from the underground, the Insane Clown Posses and the Joe Bonamassa, the incredible blues artists, and the Cottonmouth Kings, and of course Tech Nine. And there's more and more independent artists out there that are doing this completely on their own, completely flying under the radar and doing it real big. And that's what we bring you at IES, is really the ability to get to know from the executives who are really making it happen in a big way. Okay, we're going to go back. Again, this is Twista and Dub C. This is the road to Hollywood. More coming right up.
What's it did it for you, man? He said, I got to do this.
Oh, man, you went way back. It was a lot of artists, but some of the artists that I really listened to a lot that I felt that made me want to rap was artists like Run DMC, LL Cool J, artists like Ice-T. These are the artists that paved the way for me.
Now, obviously you're known as, one of the fastest rappers. Where did you get the idea? Where'd that come about that you could flow so fast?
Early in rap, it was a few rappers that used to double up a word here and there. It would be a few like LL Cool J, Poor Righteous Teachers, but like even before that, they were like, I'm rapping to the beat and I can triple it. I be tripling up with the words. You know what I'm saying? So I just started developing it and just got more and more to it to where I started to write whole raps like that.
That's great. And obviously you've been through the mill as far as dealing with all these record companies, and these suits and these corporations and everything.
Yes,
what is it about being independent
independent or being in somewhat control of what you do. Tell us about how important that is.
It's real important, but I definitely think it's a choice by the artist, depending on the situation they're in. Like some artists, it's better for them to like be major from anything dealing with what type of music they put out to the surroundings or people they deal with. Some artists, it's better for them to be in control. They want to be able to do certain things, and their music caters to a certain type of people. So I think each one of them has its benefits. You know, so the choice is open. Me, I just choose to do it independent because I did it major for so long, and I wanted to have a little free fun with it.
You could definitely be more in touch with your fans and definitely feel like there's a lot less barriers between them.
Fans, be in control of the music, the money, and get it if you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And what advice would you give to those new artists coming up? It's such a different landscape than when you started. You know, all the hills and valleys and opportunities. What would you suggest? Because a lot of these kids are still thinking they're going to get signed a big record deal, and somebody's sitting out there waiting to hear them rap. I mean, what advice would you give them to really build their own business and their leverage and their style?
Definitely have more than one thing to fall back on. Don't just look at rap as a thing that you're gonna do like 100% and put all into. Like do something or have something else you can fall back on, as well as using the computer a lot. Like we didn't have the computer when we was younger, so today the computer can be everything from your lawyer to your record label to your studio or anything else. So use the computer to the fullest.
So let's go all the way back, man. What were the artists and people that really got you excited about doing music?
I mean, of course, definitely Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. I was into artists like Keka Rockwell and just the Wild Style compilation. It was so many different artists that I was just influenced by. I mean, KRS weren't really like had me going with all the styles. That's why you hear me drop a lot of styles in my raps.
And how about the West Coast?
On the West Coast, of course, Ice-T, NWA, a lot of cats out there that was getting down. Even cats, that was my peers and stuff like that. I mean, CMW, a lot of cats out there that was just, getting down. I'm just happy to be part of it, and I was inspired by just the heartbeat of the West Coast.
Now, in looking back at the history of the West Coast, what part do you feel you play?
I mean, definitely standing up for the West Coast, coming out and getting down with the West Side Connection. I mean, everybody knows that. We stood up and went against, a whole industry that was hating on us, and not a coast, because we weren't directing it to the East Coast. We were directing it to cats out there who was hating and not giving us our just due. So, at the end of the day, we did what we did, but it's all good.
Now, how does it feel to be out there, side by side with Cube, looking at those big audiences all over the country, internationally?
It feels good, and it feels good. It feels good. We go out there, that's my homeboy, and much love and respect because we stay on the road. Just came back from Moscow, Russia. But it feels good for me to come out here solo tonight and to look at, damn near 8,000 sold out, and everybody just up singing for Dub C.
How does it feel to go to a country they don't even speak your language, but they're shouting your lyrics back to you?
Oh, in Greece, they love Dub C. They sing my words lyric for lyric, and they be requesting songs I done forgot.
Now, what advice would you give to the new cats coming up today? It's such a different business, so much harder, so many artists. Anybody can throw their little CD or digital out there.
Go against the grain. Do you. Don't follow. Don't be a follower. Be a trendsetter.
What was it did for you, man, and said, I got to do that?
Again, independent icons. It's Twista and Dub C. Again, Dub C, we're big fans of his show right here on RMC. Shout out to him and all the great artists performing over in Vegas tonight. Real quick, again, we're talking about putting your team together. We're talking about networking. There are no more rules. It's really the independent entrepreneurials that are making things happen. Our guest this week is S.Alston. He is a major executive in the industry, works with discmakers. He's had record deals. He's managing artists. He's doing major stuff. Sydney, let's talk a little bit about the importance of attending events. Obviously we're a part of putting on IES, and it's going to be a great event that we had you at. We look forward to having you again this year. But why is it so important to go out there and learn from the people that are actually doing it, and you can learn from them and network, and potentially, like you're doing right now, working alongside some of the people that you looked up to?
It's very important. I was from Philadelphia, and it was through networking that I met the people that I hang out with now in LA. Through the internet, telephone calls, friends. I went to as many events involving the music business as possible. When I got to LA, there's a whole lot more to do. I started going to the Taxi road rally that they have every year, where it's all just songwriters sitting around. Found some collaborations. IES was great. I mean, I got to tell you, man, that was one of the best conferences, if not the best conference I've ever attended. And as part of my job description, I have to go to as many of these things as I have to. But that's also what has gotten me to this job, was going out and networking, knowing people. People know what I do. They know how I do it. I got a good name for myself. I'm proud of that. And it's about, building a reputation and maintaining it.
Well, it's so important. I mean, a lot of people, they sit on the internet these days, and hopefully they're not playing video games, but there's just so much you can learn, from that. It's really what you make of your time and, the direction and that. But I think what's really important is with these events is coming face to face, not only with your peers, the people that are doing it, and you can learn from them and network and maybe get shows in their area and team up on certain types of promotions together, but it's really coming face to face with what we call the legends, the icons, the trailblazers in the industry right now, that maybe you've heard about them, maybe you haven't heard about them, but to really hear from the people behind those artists. Like I say, to hear about the people behind Tech Nine or behind Ice Cube or behind, Cottonmouth Kings or Joe Bonamassa or any of these guys, and really find out how they've put that together. You really see they're real people. That's a real team. And without anybody just writing a $50 million check or, rich uncle that works at Sony, they've actually created their own really world, their own destiny. And that's what's really exciting. So I think that's one of the most important things about IES, of course, which is right here in LA. It will be August 7th through the 11th, and we're going to be giving you out the website again to glean more information, and that is IESFest, FEST.com. It's short for festival, IESFest.com. And I think the ability, it's a 5-day conference, and so many of these, they're a day, they're a few hours. I know Taxi's like a 3-day thing, but you got to be a member of Taxi. IES is open to everybody, and we're really incorporating not only music, but the filmmakers, the videographers, the actors, dancers, DJs, the comedians, because we really feel that, unlike the past where they segregated everybody and the filmmakers go to this conference and the DJs are over here, and if you do video, you got to be at this one. We really feel that it's really opening up now more and more, and the independent artists or managers or labels are gaining so much traction by networking with everybody that's creative. And if you're going on a tour, like you say, you did a special event, it's more than just showing up at the club. You might have a hot legs contest, or the Miss whatever contest, or you might have a DJ open up, or a comedian in between acts, or some classic cars in the driveway, the parking lot. Now all of a sudden you've created an event, and that's what's really exciting about IES. We've heard from so many people since the last one. They got tours out of it. They've hooked up deals. They're now networking. We had Nate Beats on last week. He said he's now producing tracks with Lil Wayne and 50 Cent and Tech Nine from people he met at IES, and that's really what it's about. We're really excited about bringing people together. So there's over 80 different intensive workshops and seminars. A lot of people are boggled, by the amount, but really, there's that much. And one of the key things that we're doing at the event is we're letting individuals like yourself really talk and go deep. What we're not a fan of is all these conferences that have 7 or 8 people on the panel. They spend half the time introducing everybody, and the second half, like little one-liners. Well, what do you think about this? And they go down the line, wow, we're out of time. And to me, it's criminal. When you got a Sidney Alston, you have a Violet Brown, you have a Steve Lobel, you have a Brian Shafton. Look these people up. They're doing legendary business. And to get little sound bites from them is not enough.
I got to tell you how it works. I got invited to a party at Sean Kingston's house for Christmas with Chris Brown, Rihanna, Soulja Boy, and I bumped into Steve Lobel at Sean Kingston's house, and he remembered me, and he said, "Hey man, what's going on? How's your artist Major doing?" So it mattered, and somebody overheard that who does costume design and treatments for videos for some really big people like Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj, offered us to come down and meet and try on some of their clothes. So I mean, those things matter, and it is about those connections that you have, and it's almost cool to be seen by somebody who is somebody and they know who you are because you met them, and the only way you would meet them is through an event like IES, where you're that close, where those guys are walking around and it's okay to go up and tell them who you are. And it's, the music business is funny too. Everybody has somewhat of a little ego, and these people have done more than you. So it's not always about you telling them what you do. It's about asking them what you should do.
Well, I think that's it. Especially these days, everybody's proud that's making things happen. And we all like to give back because Steve Lobel talks about how Jam Master Jay gave him his shot. And we all have mentors in the business. And we feel really great about giving back to the next generation, the artists that are coming up, because we know it's part of the cycle. And it's not like these are trade secrets. You can find out how Tech Nine did it, or Bone Thugs and Harmony, or Joe Bonamassa. It doesn't mean you can do it exactly that way, or else everybody would be a star. But it's really learning from the people, not only about what they did, but learning about that undying passion. You hear E40 talking about you got to keep the throttle full. You got to love what you do, so you get up in the morning and every waking moment is for what you love. And that's so important. We're going to go to a little clip right now and come back. We're going to be playing some of Major's music. We're real excited to bring that to you, Sydney's artist. But right now, let's hear from some of the artists. These aren't the celebrities. These aren't the big speakers. But these are some of the actual attendees that just came in, attended IES, and we asked them what they thought of it, what they gleaned from it. So again, this is a little behind the scenes at IES. We look forward to having you be there this year.
Hey, how you doing? It's K-Rob Singer, IES, representing. It was unbelievable. A lot of information, a lot of great information. You can't buy this stuff, so, it was great. A lot of performances, had a lot of shows. It's pretty good.
Yeah, this is Flow Rocker, man. Flow Style Entertainment. IES Fest was the best fest that you're gonna get, man. I mean, not to knock any of them other summits, man, but this is a place to be at, man. I mean, great legends came out, man, from all kind of guys. Chino Excel, Spice One performed. Some of the biggest names in the industry. We had some of the biggest industry heads watching over all the new talent, and this is the place you want to go if you're trying to get on, man, or get your stuff out there. So come here to IES, man. Look at it, check it out, man, on the internet. You know what I mean? This is a place to be, man. If you ain't here, you ain't gonna get there. Believe that.
How y'all doing today? My name is D. Cross. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here to tell y'all should definitely come to the IES Awards. This shit was crazy. We seen goddamn hip-hop legends. Hip-hop legends, you know what I mean? From Alcoholics, you know what I mean? For the best, we had Tech Nine on the Skype, Ice-T. It was real big. It was real crazy. You guys need to make sure you come out here next year. Call my man Jay. He gave me personal one-on-one interviews with major record labels, radio stations, TV shows. We had some amazing rock bands. If you think you got talent, this is where you need to be. Ain't nothing better than IES. D. Cross, Las Vegas, Nevada.
What's poppin'? It's G-Knock, aka Gino Carnell, down here at the IES Power Summit. If you're not here, why you wasn't here? It's been poppin'. Nothing but legends, hit makers, beat makers, platinum artists, gold artists, artists from all over is making it happen. Don't be lazy. Get your grind on. Indie Power will make it happen, can make it happen. Indie Power is power. And you want power, don't be powerless. Stop sitting on the couch, stop standing in the mirror, get up out, get your grind on, get your hustle on, do what you love to do, get paid off of what you love to do. It's G-Knock, that's right. Indie Power, IES, hook up with my man JW, do it big, go beyond. Peace.
Yeah, it's your boy Randy Boston checking in, Cold Crush Music Group, Flavor Collection. I'm out here at the IES event, the Indie Entertainment Summit Live 2012. Yo, if you wasn't here this year, you need to try to make it next year. There was a lot of experience here. The panels was great. I've been to several music conferences. They have old, washed up people that's not even relevant in the game, in the industry, come up here and talk like they know what's going on. We had real people here talking about real things. I learned a lot of stuff myself, how to grow as an artist, management, you know, learning how to perfect my craft, being a better artist, promoter, everything. So you missed out. Also saw some legends here, man. We was on the stage with Spice One. We had the Alcoholics here, you know, straight legends, man, and they was in here dropping game, letting artists know you can make it as an independent artist. So don't ever lose hope. Need to holler at my man J2. Pow.
My name is Lonnie Dangerous. I'm just a tip on iTunes and CD Baby. I'm here at IES. First time, greatest experience ever, and it's only the second day. Spice One came down, Tech Nine Skyped, the Alcoholics were there, Violet Brown was here. It's the craziest thing ever. If you're on the outside of the music industry, the way to rub elbows with everyone in the inside of the industry is get down with IES. Big things. Deal with it.
Again, that's August 7th through the 11th, IESFest.com. We want to hear from you. Phone number to the office, 818-505-9537. Again, our guest this week is S.Alston. He is a executive, a veteran in the music industry, been through a lot of wars. He's climbed a lot of hills, and he's in there making it happen. So you need to get with Sidney for your CDs and all that. It is Discmakers. And, of course, Sidney is also developing some artists. So, again, we're talking about putting together that master team, talking about campaigning, really developing those songs and material. It's easy to make music, but you got to make impactful music. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things you're doing right now as far as adding to your team and some of those elements to really separate yourself from the pack, have the better quality production, really get your music out there where you're going to react, whether it be in a film or TV or whether you're going to get on a tour or a special performance?
Well, I guess it all starts off with, you know, the artist that I'm managing now is a young artist. He's 15. And so when I met him, he had a video on YouTube that had about 80,000 hits. And it was a good song, but that was all he had. So, you know, we are developing from the bottom up. But now we got a lawyer. We partnered up with Fred Durst, who has signed some pretty big bands and, you know, was in Limp Bizkit himself. You know, we're able to go to these real cool parties and things that are going on. We recorded with some of the biggest producers in Hollywood, even though I can't play any of their music for you. We've recorded with producers all around the world, actually. Frederick Thay, and it's been a blast. We've done some shows, some pretty, you know, crucial shows where we've played some festivals. And right now we are showcasing for some independent and major labels. You know, and I guess that whole showcasing for the independent major labels is more for me about the process. You know, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So when that deal comes along that you really do want, you're ready. So we are getting the artist ready. He's only 15. He's got a long way to go, but he is completely ready at this point as a singer, a songwriter, a performer, and he's pretty unique.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to be listening to some of his music coming up just in a few minutes. We're wrapping up the show. Again, it's been our pleasure to have some really exciting guests on this week. Again, every week we're going to have all sorts of information, people in the studio, people we've caught backstage, on tour, behind the scenes. It's really what it's about. You know, you got to be a student of the game. It's really an art to this. And for those that are really doing it, there's always something to be learning. You know, I'm celebrating now my 40th year in the business, even though it's kept me very young at heart. I started in the early 70s, and I've seen so many trends come and go. And you know, the independent world is just more stronger than ever. So it's really, really exciting to have guests like Sydney in with us. We're talking about building your team, talking about attending major events like IES. And we understand that some of these are very expensive. Some of these events, South by Southwest and the Muse Expo and all this, it gets very, very pricey. So what you need to do is figure out if you can only attend, you know, an event or two this year, really do your homework. You know, we want to be there for you and give you that value. Not only is IES a fraction of the cost it takes to get into that, but it's so convenient. Based in North Hollywood, Universal Studios, and City Walk, and the Hollywood and Highland area, everything's on a subway. It's free parking. There's inexpensive place to stay. So that's really what it's about. A lot of times people, they come into this business and they want to hit a home run on their first pitch. And what we really teach them is, the whole idea is to perfect your swing. The idea is to come to bat as many times as you can, pace yourself. If you're banking on hitting a grand slam on your first pitch, your odds are kind of like winning the lottery. You know, but if you come in there and steadily learning your craft, building your network, showing and proving what you can do, you can build this step by step. And we talk about the tortoise and the hare story all the time, because so many people want to get to the finish line, but they don't want to run the race. They don't really want to learn the process. And what's really, really important these days is that you learn the process. You study, and again, we're glad to be giving you this information here at the Road to Hollywood. We're going to be back next week with some real exciting guests. I want to thank our guest today, Kevin Lyman. He is the CEO and creator of the Warped Tour, E40, Mac 10, Twista, Dub C, and of course, our in-studio guest, S.Alston of Discmakers. We're going to listen to one of Sydney's artists right now. He is Major Mina. This song is called Never Wanted to Fall. And we'll see you next week on the Road to Hollywood. This is Major Mina. This is IES, the Road to Hollywood.
Never meant to fall in love, but suddenly it feels like I am chasing. Never thought a girl made me so crazy. You cast a spell down on me. Everything feels like I am falling, and I can't take it, girl, I'm breaking down. You cast a spell down on me. I never wanted to fall, baby. Long that I had it all, baby. And you win and you take me. It's been changing. Never wanted to fall, no. You that I had it all, no way. Yeah. And you came and you take me. Thought I could have my cake and I could eat it too. Thought I would never fall in love, but I guess I'm the one for you. I guess that's what I get for wishful thinking. And love is just a drug, but like the Beatles, I'm in need of you. And I'ma tell the truth. A kiss from your lips is something like endless bliss, or it's close.